Hello and welcome back to the channel of Motorbike Nonsense. You joined me in my daughter's bedroom for another one of those hostage take videos. But actually, this is all about Triumph for the second time in 2022. Triumph has done something, well, really exciting. There's an all-new Street Triple. I'm going to give you the details and explain why I think it's really good news, because there are 3 new versions of the new Street Triple, which is all new apparently. We'll find out how all new really is later on. But yeah, 3 new versions, and one of them's got clip-ons. Sort of. It's very sporty. Anyway, there are 3 versions of the new Triumph Street Triple 765. There is the R, there is the RS, and now at the top of the range there's a limited edition Moto2 version. I'm going to start with the Moto2 version, then we'll talk about the RS and the R. Now, the Moto2 version is this fluoro coloured beauty you can see here. It is covered in carbon fibre. It costs a smidge under £14,000, and as I mentioned, it's got a more extreme riding position than we've ever seen on a Street Triple. It has got clip-on bars, which I think are 85mm lower and 50mm further forward than the regular flat bars that you get on the RS and the R. It has got a new engine, which is shared with the RS model. It's now got 130 horsepower and 80 newton meters of torque, and that power is up at 12,000 RPM. So lots of the stuff that you'll get on this Moto2 version will come on the RS version, which we'll get onto in a minute. But just look at it. Doesn't it look magnificent? It comes in 2 color schemes, Triumph Racing Yellow and Crystal White, and it's limited to 765 of each of those colors, so 1,530 or whatever it is. I'm not very good at maths. Now, that 130 horsepower peak figure is 7 horsepower up on the previous version, and Triumph says that comes as a result of their work doing the Moto2 engine development program. It's got new freer flowing inlet ports, it's got a new exhaust which is more free flowing as well, it's got a new silencer, it's got loads of new gubbins, I think it's got new valves, it's got new camshafts as well, and it basically makes more power than the old engine everywhere above 7,500 RPM, and it's got more torque pretty much everywhere as well. And if that's not enough, it's shorter geared than the previous version as well, so it's more accelerative, hopefully does more wheelies, because when they brought out the first 765 it was a bit long geared, it felt a bit racetrack focused, which is odd that they've gone shorter geared and put that in this Moto2 version, but whatever, I ain't complaining. It'll feel thrustier, hopefully. Is that a good word? Thrustier? Now, the Moto2 version is the lightest version of the new Street Triple at 188 kilograms wet. It's actually the same weight as the RS, but it gets lots of carbon fibre stuff as well. One thing you don't get on the RS, which you do get on this Moto2 version, is Öhlins forks, Nix 30 forks, fully adjustable obviously. This is obviously designed to go on the racetrack, and the steering geometry is actually slightly sharper as well than the RS. And those clip-ons, they look like clip-ons to me. They're slightly helibar, they look slightly raised above the yoke a little bit, but they still look pretty extreme, and I think the Speed Triple 1200 RR certainly made clear that Triumph is happy to release a bike that is desperately uncomfortable to ride in the hope that people take it on racetracks. Otherwise, the rear suspension is the same on the RS. It also gets a fancy new Moto2 startup screen when you boot it up on the digital dashboard. We'll talk more about the dashboards at the end of this video, but for now let's talk about the RS, the non-limited version, which is super sporty. Good news here, it's £11,295, so it doesn't seem much more expensive than the outgoing one. Better news, doesn't just come in grey. Sure, it comes in grey with some orange bits, it also comes in red or yellow. Yeah, Triumph is continuing the theme of doing bright colours on its bikes. It started this year with the Classics collection. We've since seen some chrome bikes, but now we're getting a yellow Street Triple RS. I kind of really want one. So, like the Moto2 bike, this does get Stylema brake calipers as well. I didn't mention that. The R doesn't get Stylemas. The RS also gets a belly pan. It's basically the Moto2 version, but without the clip-ons, without the Öhlins forks, without the fancy paint job carbon fibre, and the individually numbered yoke, which I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Moto2 one. Triumph also says the RS will come with a body colour seat cowl as well, so if you're not taking a pillion, you can whack that on and look super cool. Are you going to take a pillion on your Street Triple? Maybe, but if you're not, whack the cowl on and then scuff it up with your rucksack like I used to do on my Daytona. At the bottom, entry level of the new Street Triple 765 range is the R. Not an RS, just an R as we've seen before. This has actually got a slightly different engine to the RS and the Moto2. It's got 120 horsepower, still got 80 newton meters of torque, and peak power comes in 500 RPM earlier than before. It comes in grey or white, and unlike the RS, it doesn't get an Erlin shock, and it's 189 kilograms wet. Now, let's talk about electronics, because there's been some changes here as well. Every single new street triple gets an up and down quick shifter as standard. Cruise control is an option, and only on the RS and the Moto2, and I think it involves replacing the left-hand switchgear block. Your dealer will do it to give you cruise control, but hey, at least it's an option. I know mates that have done loads of tours on street triples, and they're actually quite good touring bikes if you're okay with being on a naked, and cruise control just makes life better, doesn't it? Now, you get 5 rider modes on the RS and the Moto2. I'm going to read them because I can't remember them. Road, rain, sport, track, and rider. Rain knocks it down to 100 horsepower, and the street triple R only has 4 modes. It loses track. Are you keeping up? Every single one of these also gets cornering ABS and switchable cornering traction control as well. I just hope Triumph has set the traction control up so you can wheelie it without turning everything off. I doubt they have, but whatever. Now, in terms of dashboards, you're going to see loads of videos and photos of this. The RS and the Moto2 have got a beautiful 5-inch colour TFT display, which looks very modern, and hopefully the animations are a bit quicker than on previous Triumphs, because switching between menus on a speed triple does seem to take 10 years off my life when I do it. The Street Triple R doesn't get a big colour TFT. It gets kind of a split level dash like we've seen on the Trident, with the revs across the top and a little screen below it to show you speed and other bits and pieces of information. It's a cheaper bike, it gets a cheaper dash. Now, while we're talking about dashes and that kind of area of stuff, what you look at and touch with your mitts, Triumph says the switch cube, which is that little kind of directional nubbin you get under your left thumb for using the dashboard, they said that's been optimized ergonomically, which hopefully means now you'll actually be able to use it to navigate the dash without hitting the horn or the indicators, because left-hand switchgear on Triumphs has been a bugbear of mine in the past. It just gets a bit cramped, and when you've got gloves on, it's quite hard to go up and down, left and right on that little switch cube, but apparently that has been fixed. Now, there's not much else to tell you really about these new street triples. I've wanged on longer than I should have done anyway. There are some new accessories, there are 50 accessories. It's the usual stuff like luggage, crash protection, there's what else is there? There's adjustable braking clutch levers, there's scrolling indicators, so you get that kind of like Audi effect on your indicators. Don't know if you like it. I think it looks a bit naff when your indicators are only about 1.5 inches wide anyway. There's also a tail tidy, and there's quite nice looking machined mirrors which look all billety and quite nice, and you can get round ones or kind of rectangular ones of those, I think. They look really decent. Now, all of these bikes have got a 15-litre fuel tank, which is all new. Don't know what MPG you're going to get out of them, probably 50-ish, but 15 litres. I remember the days when you used to get 17-litre fuel tanks, but I guess those days of having 40 MPG are gone, and we all get 50 MPG and everything is happy and hunky-dory now, so I probably shouldn't whinge about it. Oh yes, my phone tells me the last bit of information you need to know about the new Street Triple is there is a 28mm lower seat height option, and if you get the Street Triple RS or the Moto2, your dealer can put a lower suspension link in to lower the seat an extra 10mm or something like that. Can't do it on the Street Triple R, which does seem a bit remiss given that might be the one shorter riders might want to buy, but hey, I'm really excited. New Street Triple, it should be a beaut. I used to love the Street Triple. It was my first bike, as I think lots of you know. And I used to love the instant punch. And when I got on the 765, I was a bit disappointed because the gearing was so long. It lost some of that initial naughtiness, and it felt a bit serious, a bit more like you had to Rav's a dude, isn't he? You have to rev the nuts off it to actually go really fast, and it was a bit of a screamer. Now I think going to 12,000 RPM, the RS engine will still be a screamer, but hopefully shorter gearing and more torque across the mid-range is going to pep it up a bit, hopefully. And it did used to be the case, I used to think, that the Speed Triple and the Street Triple, if you did a side-by-side like roll-on, they'd be pretty evenly matched in terms of outright acceleration. There wasn't much between them. Now obviously the Speed Triple's got 180 horsepower, that's no longer the case, but this has gone up to 130. I think there's more clear water between them than there used to be, but still very excited to have a go on one of these on the road, or maybe even the track. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how uncomfortable that Moto2 version is. I think I would go for a bright yellow RS model and just have fun with it on the road, frankly. And I think for £11,295, I don't know what it's going to be on a PCP. It's not a huge amount of money for a 130 horsepower sporty middleweight naked thing. I did forget to say as well, Triumph, as usual, has promised more induction noise than ever, but the static noise is quieter than ever. It meets the new Austrian Tyrol regulations. So there's a very specific mountainous area of Austria, apparently, where your bike's got to be quite quiet. So they meet that. But anyway, I've waffled on enough. My daughter's going to want her bedroom back in a minute. Thank you for watching this. If it's been useful, please hit like. Also subscribe to the channel because there's more bike reviews and news and fewer hostage taking videos coming up very soon. And go down to the comments and tell me if this bike is going to be good and if you now want a street triple. Thanks for watching.